Carte.
Carte. 9 à la banque.
I need another 1,000.
I admire your courage, Miss...
Trench. Sylvia Trench. I admire your luck, Mr.
Bond. James Bond.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is perhaps the most famous introduction in all of filmdom. Hi, I'm Kevin from the SDP, and this is the 007 Diamond Jubilee.
C'est suivi.
Our story begins in Jamaica, where British agent Professor Strangways gets murdered by 3 assassins. Once the radio signal to London, which he maintains, goes off the air, the head of the British Secret Service dispatches an agent to investigate, and that agent is none other than Commander James Bond, here played by Sean Connery. What can you say about the man who single-handedly defined one of cinema's most enduring characters? I don't know, I'm asking. Seriously, it's tougher to ascertain what makes Connery's Bond, since I didn't grow up with him or anything. But for you, I'll try. Connery's Bond is something of a tough guy, a hard-boiled detective. When it comes to women, he always opts for a quick fling instead of a meaningful relationship, but has an incredible success rate in the matter, even managing to turn an ambiguous lesbian, which I'll discuss during Goldfinger. All the same, he does so in a suave, high-class fashion, and he develops the art of one-liners after killing people. According to director Terrence Young, he thought, a lot of the things in this film, the sex and the violence and so on, if played straight, A, would be objectionable, and B, we're never going to go past along the senses. But the moment you take the mickey out, put the tongue in the cheek, it seems to disarm. For example, here's a guy who committed suicide to keep a secret from Bond.
Sergeant, make sure he doesn't get away.
Seriously, the sergeant's reaction is priceless. Once the writers came up with that gem, scenes like this came easily.
How did it happen? I think they were on their way to a funeral.
But some scenes don't go for humor. After sleeping with and arresting one accomplice of Dr. No, a second man, Professor Dent, walks in. When Dent tries to pull a gun on Bond, this happens.
Mr. Smith & Wesson. You've had your 6.
It's hard to appreciate how shocking this scene was these days, but it was rather infamous for its time. Think about it. Bond just shot a man who had lost all his defenses. This is no longer a matter of self-defense for Bond, this counts as cold-blooded murder. That he would be capable of doing so without breaking a sweat reminds us of who Bond really is under all his trappings, an assassin. 007 interacts with a number of female compatriots on both sides of the conflict, but the true Bond girl, that is, the one he ends up with in the end, is Honey Ryder, played by Ursula Andress. She is a civilian shell scavenger not intentionally involved with Dr. No's affairs. Ryder is most famous for her entrance, rising up from the sea in a white bikini, and for all its iconic imagery, it's surprisingly downplayed. No slow motion splash or anything, it's just kinda there. Yeah, I didn't say I was complaining. But frankly, she doesn't add much to the story apart from fan service. Her and Bond's chemistry can be summed up as thus. She wants to tag along while Bond wants her to stay safe and out of the way. All things considered, how they end up together is a mystery. Funny what trauma can do to a couple. And even though same-language dubbing was more acceptable back in 1962, in order to mask the accents of foreign actors like Andress, the performance we get by Monica van der Zyl just seems out of it.
What's your name?
Ryder.
Ryder what?
Honey Ryder. What's so funny about it?
Nothing. It's a very pretty name.
The titular villain is Dr. Julius No, played by the since-deceased Joseph Wiseman. In the film, he is an agent of Spectra, the Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terror, Revenge, and Extortion. Wiseman plays his role on the cold-blooded side. He doesn't get much of a chance to break loose in terms of acting, but the role he sticks to is a chilling one indeed. Dr. No invokes a sense of fear in nearly everyone he interacts with. First, we have the agent who volunteered to drive 007 to the government house. Once he gets found out, he takes cyanide to kill himself rather than divulge anything to Bond, to which I have previously alluded. And then we have this scene with Professor Dent. He gets a talking to from Dr. No without him or the audience getting a look at the villain, and is instructed to send the poisonous tarantula to 007's hotel room. When the spider does get sent to him, stuntman Bob Simmons, even the mighty Bond gets creeped out by it. That is, until he springs to life and gives the beast a crushing overkill. Dr. No, the film, doesn't really involve gadgets in the form we're familiar with, if only because those conventions haven't been established yet. However, the character of Q, here played by Peter Burton, introduces 007's weapon of choice, the Walter PPK handgun.
Walter PPK, 7.65 mil with a delivery like a brick through a plate glass window. Takes a Brausch silencer with very little reduction in muzzle velocity. The American CIA swear by them.
Thank you, Major Ryder.
Dr. No simply uses the iconic instrumental James Bond theme, composed by Monty Norman and conducted by John Barry. What do I need to say? It's omnipresent in the series, and for a good reason. It's that awesome. It's edgy, it's slick, it's dangerous. What more do you need to know? The credit sequence it plays behind is divided into 3 parts. 1, the famous gun barrel walk segues directly into an animation of colored dots. 2, colored silhouettes of people dancing to calypso music. And 3, the 3 blind mice walking the streets of Jamaica en route to execute the hit on Strangways. All in all, a rather simple if cute affair. Being the first big-screen Bond adventure, Dr. No wisely takes it easy. The plot isn't overly complicated. The first half is Bond doing detective work, and the second half is his raid on Crab Key. I can understand this being the norm in the pre-Schwarzenegger film era, and while I wouldn't call it boring, I should at least warn the more younger-minded of my viewers about these trends. In terms of the production design, there are a couple of sets which highlight the extravagance of Dr. No, but otherwise it doesn't stand up to the grand-scale sets we expect of the Bond series these days. But once again, those customs were not yet developed, so give them time. All things considered, it works, but it's hard to appreciate this movie as anything but the beginning of a saga. But they got the basics right the first time around, and that is no small feat. Dr. No scores 80%, a B.